Philip DeFranco on top
So,
of it with current
beautiful
news.
bastards, welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show. It is Monday, May 15th. I'm still emotionally recovering from last night's episode of Succession, but I'm going to take a break from processing those feelings and give you the best damn daily news show out there. So, buckle up, you beautiful bastards. Hit that like button and let's just jump into it. Starting with people in New York and now the country are massively divided on the situation that some describe as a subway ride turned deadly and others describe as just straight up murder. All right, so let's walk through it. The story began earlier this month in Manhattan, and if you've ever lived in New York, you know the subways are notorious for these kind of uncomfortable, sometimes aggressive confrontations between the housed and the unhoused. And this appears to have started as another example with Jordan Neely, a 30-year-old homeless black man with a history of mental illness, stepping on
Is this Jordan Neely in a Michael Jackson fit? Why this? Why would you use this picture of him when he's like a teenager? What?
board the F train. He was reportedly known locally as a Michael Jackson impersonator, though family said he had been struggling
Oh, he's been doing this since he was a teenager. Okay.
with mental health ever since his mother was strangled to death by her boyfriend in 2007. Saying that
Jeez.
on this day he was being disruptive, throwing garbage, and possibly threatening passengers. With one witness claiming that he shouted, "I want food, I'm not taking no for an answer, I'm ready to go back to jail, I'll hurt anyone on this train." Though according to witnesses, he did not actually attack anyone. But as he's ranting and all this is happening, you have Daniel Penny, a 24-year-old white man and former Marine, with him reportedly coming up behind
24-year-old. Why did you say the white man part? Did you say the black man part when you introduced Jordan Neely? I'm just calling it a spade a spade. I'm looking out for this stuff because it tells you obviously how they want to spin a narrative. Do you want to focus on the facts or do you want to spin a narrative? Let me see how you introduce Jordan Neely.
is another example with Jordan Neely, a 30-year-old homeless black man with a history of mental illness.
Homeless black man, 24-year-old white man. I don't know what race has to do with anything, but he said it for both, so I can't really say anything.
Attack anyone. But as he's ranting and all this is happening, you have Daniel Penny, a 24-year-old white man and former Marine, with him reportedly coming up behind Neely, putting him in a chokehold on the ground, and reportedly yelling for someone to call 911. Meanwhile, you had two other men standing over them and
Why are you using this picture? This is not what Jordan Neely looks like right now. I'm being hypercritical, right?
helping subdue Neely.
I don't know.
Reportedly
It's
lasting
just
around
I
15
feel like
minutes,
it's
even though
just
the
trying
train stopped
to
once the
humanize
station and the doors open.
Jordan
While all this
Neely.
is happening on video, you can hear one bystander appearing to express concern after Neely passed out, telling Penny to let him go, saying Neely had defecated on himself, which could be a sign that he's dying, and warning Penny that he could face a murder charge. Also, another bystander remarking after Neely finally stands up, that was one hell of a chokehold, man, with EMTs then arriving and performing CPR on Neely, but he was now limp and they couldn't revive him. And so ultimately, he's pronounced dead at the hospital with the official cause of death being compression of the neck. Now, as far as Penny, he was initially questioned by police, but initially they just let him go without any charges. But with this, you have video of the encounter going viral, many people being shocked, saddened, outraged, AOC tweeting. Jordan Neely was murdered, but because Jordan was houseless and crying for food in a time when the city is raising rents
Crying for food.
and stripping services to militarize itself while many in power demonize the poor, the murderer gets protected with passive headlines and no charges. But with this, you also saw a ton of people coming to Penny's defense, saying that he's a hero and that people like AOC are just villainizing him, and their general argument being that he was just trying to defend himself and the other passengers from Neely and he didn't intend to kill him. With some later pointing out Neely's criminal record, which included 42 arrests for things like, yes, evading fares and theft, but
What do you mean? Yes, invading. He has 42 arrests. Theft, assault on 3 women.
also assault. But at the same time, you have those on the other side countering that his past crimes are 42 arrests for things like, yes,
Nah. He did not just do that. Yes,
him. And the general
but
argument being that he was just trying to defend himself and the other passengers from Neely, and he didn't intend to kill
I
him.
mean,
But some later
I
pointing
know
out
Philip
Neely's
is like
criminal record,
Libby.
which included 42 arrests for things like, yes, evading fares
Yes, evading fares and theft, but also assault. Bro, I don't care about the evading fare. Theft, depending on how the theft was done, really bad. He assaulted 3 women. I mean, yes. I mean, I'm not trying to use that as a crutch, but like you're saying, yeah, it's no big deal. It's how your inflection is sounding.
and theft, but also assault. But at the same time, you have those on the other side countering that his past crimes are not relevant here, or saying Penny couldn't have known any of that at the time, and arguing further that Neely
Regardless if you knew that at the time, what it spells is that if the person, in terms of actions done priorly, you wouldn't know, but you have to be you have to take that into account when it comes down to the risk level. You won't be able to assess risk level until afterwards when you look at all the data, but in the current situation based on the 10th scenario is how you're going to judge that specific stress that's going on. But when you take a step back and is able to look at the full picture, you're 100% able to look at it and analyze that the risk level is 100% there, considering he's a past criminal. So I don't. It's not really a
Posed
point.
no real threat and that Penny overreacted to something New Yorkers see on the subway every day. And also saying that as a Marine, he arguably should have known that the so-called blood choke, that takes as little as 8 seconds to cut off blood and oxygen to the brain, at least when done properly. And so this debate's been raging online nonstop this entire month, people even protesting.
All right, let me give my personal opinions on this Jordan Neely situation. Based on what was said, the fact that he came in there, he was yelling at people and saying that he was willing to hurt people and was being extremely frantic. If anybody in any situation says they're about to do whatever it takes and about to hurt a bunch of people, you have every right to take that guy down in a way to kind of get him out of the situation, especially if you're on public transport. If the subway starts leaving and now you can't escape the situation, you need to make sure that he doesn't do anything that can potentially hurt a lot of people, right? So subduing him and then calling the police is a very appropriate action when he elicits that he's about to hurt a bunch of people, right? That is fine. Now, with that said, the caveat here is that the force to subdue him was excessive. Neely Penny 100% deserves some type of punishment for the action. Sure, being proactive, making sure he doesn't hurt people, I'm fine with that. I agree with that. It's scenario based, but I feel like this scenario is justified. I'm not. A lot of people are just emotional because he's a homeless black man, right? But the actions he did was too much. You did not need to put him in a chokehold for. I heard some people say like 15 minutes. That's excessive. That's obsessive, especially if he didn't hurt anybody. Subdue him. Don't like outright potentially kill him, right? You know as a Marine that a chokehold, especially when put with enough force, will kill a person. So Penny, at the same time, I'm glad you're being proactive, but you could have been proactive without the chokehold. Or you can at the very least put a light hold on him, put no pressure, just keep him down. Or just put him in like a full Nelson. There are so many things that could have been done, especially considering there's so much other people helping with the situation to make sure that you would have been able to get out of this situation. This person would have been arrested again, and then you would have been along your way. So it's very possible that Penny was kind of feeling himself with the hero thing, or it's possible that he was filled up with adrenaline and kind of acted rashly. He definitely deserves a punishment. I don't think he's a criminal. I don't think he's a murderer. This is I would deem like very appropriate action, but I do think he has deserves some type of punishment based on like the criteria of manslaughter, right? So those are my opinions about the Jordan Neely situation. AOC, even though she's attractive as hell, being a victim blamer, uh, being very emotional and reactionary per usual. So, nothing surprising there. But I definitely think there's something to be said considering the fact that, yes, in terms of New York, in terms of society, there should be better solutions in terms of affordable housing and so much other things. So I think that's definitely a debate, argument, discussion that should be had.
For Neely. But then on Friday, it moved from just the court of public opinion to actual court. Because on Friday, 11 days after the killing, Penny surrendered to police for a second-degree manslaughter charge, which carries up to a 15-year sentence, leading to cheers for Neely's advocates, but also a rush of people to support Penny.
He's
With an
probably
online
not going to
defense
get
fund
15
to cover his
years.
legal costs, raising more than $2 million as of recording this video. Though notably,
Raising $2 million. I mean, I get it, but I feel like people are just doing this for politics. This is just a political thing. You don't really care about these two people. You're just caring about it because the other side hates them so much. Uh, humans are so fascinating creatures, bro. Once something hits a political, emotional nerve, they'll do whatever. They'll do whatever it takes to either fight against or support it. It's crazy.
According to the website, any extra money will be donated to a mental health advocacy group in New York City. Now, as far as what Penny has said, he's actually not spoken publicly yet, though we know he has pled not guilty. And so for now, we're gonna have to wait to see how all this plays out. But I've got to ask you, what are your thoughts here? What camp are you landing in?